In Mexico City, you can go almost anywhere by subway. And today, I've decided to leave the monuments and museums behind and go to a couple of my favorite neighborhoods in this sprawling metropolis to mingle with everyday people doing everyday things. Starting here, on the streets of Roma. Where you can find bicycle shops, a neighborhood theater, a store whose sign proclaims that life without cheese is not life, and where you can buy fresh produce off the back of a pickup.
Estas aplicaciones calientes, estos son un poquito más delicados y son más cremositos. Hay de arroz y de perejil, las puedes usar para bañarte, para las maquitas, incluso para las todas.
Y así empezamos. Sí. Ya que pero entonces ya fue. Sí, fuimos ahí. Sí, llegamos allá y ahí.
You can learn a lot about a place by watching the children play. That goes for the adults, too. When drummers and an aerobic dance group turn up at the same place at the same time, you have perfect synergy.
I realize the tendency of most people who come to Mexico City is to run here and there and see the most famous sites. That's normal. And yet it's sort of a loser's game, because if you only have a short period of time here, as many people do, it's impossible to see everything. In fact, it's impossible to do more than scratch the surface. And that's why I always encourage people who come to places such as Mexico City to put aside some time away from the crowds, away from the tourist sites, and just come to places where people live to get a better glimpse of the real Mexico.
¿Cómo estás? Buenas tardes. Bien, también, gracias.
Ah, bueno, está bien.
En total son 6 señoritas. A ver, es una de queso. Chicharrón prensado con queso, chicharrón normal con queso, papas con chorizo, picadillo con queso y prensado solo.
Ajá, y la de champiñón.
Ah, le falta la de champiñón.
Ajá, pero sin queso.
La de queso, que no me dicen.
La de queso es la de Yepeto. Ajá. Solo, ¿verdad? Sí. Ajá. Entonces, al lado es chicharrón con queso. Pero sin queso. Las dos de champiñón.
Some of you may recognize the house across the street from me as the stand-in boyhood home for director Alfonso Cuarón in his classic film, Roma.
Cuarón actually grew up in this house across the street. But for fans of the movie, of which I am one, the house at number 22 is an indelible landmark. And as I'm leaving, a scene that could have been straight from the movie.
Colchones, tapones, refrigeradores, estufas, lavadoras.
It was time to move on to Coyoacan, a neighborhood more familiar to me, having lived there for a time years ago. And delightfully, it's as pleasant as ever.
The vibe is decidedly laid back, exceedingly pleasant, and where every afternoon seems like the proverbial Sunday afternoon in the park.
You know how it is when you're walking around having a nice time and hunger overtakes you? Yeah, you know where I'm headed.
To tell you the truth, I'm hungry enough to eat the proverbial horse, but I think I'm going to eat something much better. So the way this works is that you order the comida corrida, and it comes in courses, starting with a soup and the rice dish, and now it's the chicken in the delicious verde sauce.
tender, fall off the bone, just like my abuela used to cook.
This market has been in operation for probably 100 years. It's in the middle of what has become a very artsy but upscale neighborhood over the last 20, 30, 40 years. And yet it retains its authenticity, sort of a common man vibe. That is what makes so many markets in Mexico so appealing. Coyoacan has been a haven for artists, writers, actors for a very long time. But no place in this community draws more attention than the place I'm about to show you. This is the former home of the artist Frida Kahlo. And as you can see, the line to get in stretches around the corner. Forever known as Casa Azul, or the Blue House, this is the place where Kahlo was born, grew up, lived with husband Diego Rivera for many years, and finally died in an upstairs room. Back when I lived briefly in the neighborhood, all one had to do is walk up to the front of the Kahlo house, buy a ticket, and go in. But that was before widespread recognition of her artistry. So what do they say? Recognition, admiration, commercialization. There's one other place I want you to see here in Coyoacan. It's this place. I'm on the grounds of another famous home, that of would-be Soviet leader Leon Trotsky, who was exiled from Russia following the revolution, tracked down by forces loyal to Stalin, and murdered here in 1940.
The leafy neighborhood still seems like a strange place for a Soviet political assassination. Not to mention the guard tower. Entry to the Trotsky Museum is on the other side of the block, facing a freeway. There were 2 assassination attempts against Trotsky. These bullet holes near the front door are from the first one. The house is pretty much preserved as when Trotsky lived there. The kitchen, dining room, Trotsky's bedroom, and his study, where the fatal attack took place, carried out by a Stalinist who had penetrated the household by becoming the lover of Trotsky's personal secretary, and who stabbed his victim in the head with an ice pick. A footnote: after spending 20 years in a Mexican prison, The attacker returned to Russia in 1960 to a hero's welcome. Such things seem far removed from the quiet plazas and leafy walking streets of neighborhoods like Coyoacan and Roma. In such places and elsewhere, you'll find Mexico City residents going about their lives, doing ordinary things with spontaneity and, not least of all, music.